Is Ted actually the Wizard of Oz?
Oh! Yes.
Now, I don't mean that I think that Jeff Goldblum is suddenly going to be shouting out barbecue sauce and Wicked for good. But, he probably could make that work, though. That says more what I think about Jeff Goldblum, though, than it does the actual story. When, Jeff Goldblum, incidentally, would be my dream choice to play Dumbledore. And just to plug my channel real quick, I make a lot of Star Wars and Harry Potter content, so if anybody's down for my dream Harry Potter cast, I'm totally down to release that. If you guys are interested, just leave a comment down below. Not to dunk on the show as much, we'll just have some fun, and maybe you'll read the books a little differently next time. But for today, I'm just going to be diving into The Wizard of Oz and show the similarities between the wizard as he is shown in the original motion picture in 1939 and Jason Sudeikis' Ted Lasso. Now, I'm not the first person to recognize this similarity, but today I just kind of wanted to dive in to see how deep this comparison really goes, and to start with that, you have to look at their personalities. Those of you who have seen Ted Lasso, which, clicked on the video, you probably do, but you know that he is the most positive and optimistic guy in the world, or at least that's how he shows himself to everybody. As the show goes on, we learn that a lot of his upbeat attitude is a defense mechanism as he deals with the pain of his divorce, childhood traumas, and even his feelings of inadequacy as a father. Man, crazy how this show started as a commercial for the Premier League on NBC.
Hey, how you doing? This is Ted Lasso. I'm the new head coach of the Tottenham Hotspurs, and I'd like to talk to the Queen, please.
Now, the big thing with the wizard is he's just a man, But to Oz, he rules over all of them behind bells and whistles as an all-powerful being. Now, Ted's aspirations obviously aren't as high, but he is still a head coach, and that does have a certain amount of power on a team. Even on a team he is in no way qualified to coach.
Probably ain't. I've been doing this sport now for 3 years, and I still get a chuckle every time someone talks about a handball violation.
Now, where this gets real fun is when we look at Ted's relationships with the other characters in his series and compare that to the relationships that the wizard has. So, to recap an 86-year-old movie, and spoilers for it, I guess unintentional spoilers for Wicked for Good. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know if this will spoil anything, or haven't seen the musical or read the book. That's why I'm talking about Ted Lasso in this video, but a quick recap for it. The Scarecrow is given a diploma to represent his desire for a brain. The Cowardly Lion is given a medal and an explanation of how him running away from fears makes him no less brave. The Tin Man is given a testimonial and an explanation on what love really is about and how it's not just like a physical manifestation of a heart. And Dorothy is told that she had the power to go home all along with the ruby red slippers. Now, where Ted differs from the wizard is that he doesn't promise people things and then have to cover for himself when he can't do it as literally as he promised. He just kind of helps people indirectly to try to help them be the best versions of themselves that they possibly can be. So the first character we're going to be looking at is Jamie Tart, reality TV star who in his off time wants to be a pretty good footballer.
Yeah!
Sorry, Jamie, but his journey throughout the series is very similar to the Scarecrow getting a brain. In Season 1, Jamie starts out as a brash, cocky, but talented striker who scores every goal, and by the end of Season 3, he's the visionary who gets everybody on the team involved and the engine that makes Ted's version of total football work. Ted even says to him if he can turn that I into us, then the sky's the limit for him, as Jamie's journey is about him realizing that out there he's just 1 in 11, and in doing so, he becomes 1 in a million. But Ted isn't the only one who helps Jamie get there. He has another key mentor, and he's here, he's there, he's every effing where. Roy Kent. Roy's journey throughout the series is honestly kind of more what the Tin Man was probably hoping for in The Wizard of Oz than what he actually got, as Roy starts the show really only out for himself. He has the respect of the team, but he doesn't want to lead, and he really only has love for his niece. But By the end of the show, he's Ted's replacement as head coach and has become best friends with his worst enemy.
Well, he's not.
Right, sure, Roy. Whatever you say. Anyway, though, Ted rightly points out that if he and Coach Beard are going to make an impact at Richmond, then the first domino that has to fall is inside that man's heart. And, it's because Roy kind of has this charisma about him where people just kind of naturally love him in spite of the fact that he does not want them to. So, what Ted does for him is he teaches him to accept love. And in doing so, Roy is able to embrace his role as team captain and eventually is able to grow into a guy who can admit when things hurt his feelings.
And it hurt my feeling.
Man, I'm using way too many Roy clips, but how can I not, man? He's awesome. Now, on to the Cowardly Lion. I would argue, more than anything, what the wizard gives him is confidence. And there is no one character whose journey is more about confidence in Ted Lasso than the spectacular Sam Obisanya.
Be a goldfish, Sam. Yeah?
Sam's journey starts as a young player who's away from home for the first time. In fact, Ted's first example of culture building with the team is throwing Sam a birthday party because he's homesick. But by the end of the series, we see that Sam has not only learned to become a leader on the team, but that he's willing to stand up to corruption in his home nation's government and stand up to a billionaire who's trying to destroy his life. Sam's father also plays a huge role in this as well, but that's kind of the thing with Ted and the Wizard. It's more subtleties that they perform as they try to just kind of point you in a direction. Wow, I just realized that that direction is usually away from them too. I mean, in the Wizard's case, it's because he's a fraud. I'm not saying Ted doesn't want what's best for everybody, but he also has abandonment issues too. So it's kind of like he's wanting to teach them to be their best without him, so that he knows they'll be okay, but he's also afraid that they'll run away from him too. Now we get to Dorothy, the young girl from Kansas who just wants to get home. Kind of went back and forth on this one a little bit. I considered Nate here, but I think the character who best represents Dorothy in this story is Ted's wife, Michelle. Or I guess I should be saying ex-wife here, because that's part of Ted's story, is being able to let her go, to send her back to Kansas because she has everything she needs, and that's what's best for her. Okay, now that we're past the stars of the Wizard of Oz, I do actually want to dive into the stars of Wicked a little bit, but because of some of my own theories, I'm going to be just sticking to Elphaba, Galinda, and Morrible. So for Elphaba, I wanted to pick a character who's perceived as wicked at first, but the more we get to know her, the more we realize she's a good person, and that is obviously Rebecca, the owner of the AFC Richmond Greyhounds, who hires Ted just so that he'll fail and the team will get relegated just to spite her ex-husband. But she and Ted end up becoming very close friends. They help each other through their divorces, and while I can't really see a world in which this happens between the Wizard and Elphaba and Wicked for good, I've been proven wrong before, if the stories are going to play out similar. Which then, of course, leads to their best friend being somebody who is naive, popular, and wanting to be more like her friend. Wait, I'm talking about two different characters here, right? Right! Yep, I'm talking about Galinda and Keely here, who both start their stories as women who are more popular for shallower reasons, but they both grow to be more caring people as a result of their friendships and have a desire to be more like their best friend, as Galinda wants to be a witch like Elphaba, and Keely wants to be a boss like Rebecca. Now for Morrible. There aren't really a ton of bad guys in Ted Lasso, but there is one character who manipulates, lies, and just makes life worse for all of our favorite characters. Rupert Mannion. These last three are definitely more about their relationships with each other, but if Rebecca is Elphaba, then nobody does more to screw her over than Rupert. And, whether it's him cheating on her, which leads to their divorce, him buying out her partners so that he can humiliate her, or buying another team in the Premier League just so that he can compete against her. And then after all that, he turns Nate against all of them and is manipulating him into being more jealous and acting out against them when, the team at Richmond did love Nate. But even getting back to Ted, even his relationship with Rupert shows that Ted really is what people think that the wizard is. Because even with Rupert, he's trying to coach him on how to be a better person. That's what the dart scene is all about. Yeah, he's putting him in his place, but he's also teaching him about underestimating people.
Be curious, not judgmental. I like that.
And at the end of the day, the biggest difference between Ted and the wizard will always be that Ted is willing to put in the work to make these relationships happen, and the wizard is always just going to do what he can to cover for himself, even if sometimes they manage to teach some of the same lessons. Also, for a fun little quick one, I just wanted to show this clip real quick because it reminded me of Coach Beard.
Orders are, nobody can see the great Oz, not nobody, not know how.
Fine, I said it. But what I meant was that Joe Walsh underrated, Jimmy Page overrated.
Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Again, I know I'm not the first person to come up with this. I just wanted to dive back into Oz a little bit before Wicked for Good came out, and hopefully I added something new to the discussion. If you liked this style of video, I'm going to leave here my video for how Dumbledore is Spider-Man. Just with great power comes great responsibility. So if you enjoyed this, you'll probably like that one too. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of these comparisons today. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you want more like this. And I'll see you next time on STV.